Hi, my name is Clara Camila Valsi Serrano. I am a student from Tech Milenio. This class is Contemporary World. During World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union fought together as allies against the Axis powers. However, the relationship between the two nations was a tense one. Americans had long been wary of Soviet communism and concerned about Russian leader Joseph Stalin's tyrannical, bloodthirsty rule of his own country. For their part, the Soviets resented the Americans' decades-long refusal to treat the USSR as a legitimate part of the international community, as well as their delayed entry to World War II, which resulted in the deaths of tens of millions of Russians. After the war ended, these grievances ripened into an overwhelming sense of mutual distrust and enmity. Post-war Soviet expansion in Eastern Europe fueled many Americans' fears of the Russian plan to control the world. Meanwhile, the USSR came to resent what they perceived as American officials' bellicose rhetoric, arms buildup, and interventions approach to international relations. In such a hostile atmosphere, no single party was entirely to blame for the Cold War. In fact, some historians believe it was inevitable. Important dates: 1946, the creation of the Iron. 1948, the Berlin Airlift. 1949, forming of NATO. 1955, Vietnam War. 1960, the U-2 incident. 1961, creation of the Berlin Wall. 1989, fall of the Berlin Wall. 1991, end of the Soviet Union. Cold War refers to intense economic, political, military, and ideological rivalry between nations, short of military conflict, sustained hostile political policies, and atmosphere of strain between opposed countries. Capitalism. The essence of capitalism is economic freedom. Practices like ill-conceived subprime lending and crippling corporate fraud are side effects of a system that revolves around the individual's right to pursue his or her financial goals without the government getting involved. Name of people involved. Adam Smith is considered the first theorist of what we commonly refer to as capitalism. A critic of the results of capitalism was formulated by Karl Marx. Socialism. The political and economic theory of socialism was created with a vision of a utopian society in mind. Contrary to other economic systems, there is no real consensus on how the ideal socialist society should function. Name of people involved. In Britain, Thomas Paine proposed a detailed plan to tax property owners to pay for the needs of the poor in agrarian justice. Now I will interview my teacher, Perla Rodriguez.
The capitalist Occidental Bloc, which leader was the USA, and the Communist East Bloc with the Soviet Union as leader. Well, when the Second War ended, the Soviets were concerned about preventing an invasion again, so they created communist states, and the Western allies felt betrayed, and they also had evidence that the Soviets had been spying. And the reasons of this war were political and ideological. The two world powers wanted to implement their government system in the whole war. They had different ideas of how Europe should be restructured. It wasn't in a specific place because none of the two blocs took directly action against the other. General public was devastated after the Second World War, so they called this as an armed peace war because there wasn't a weapon attack. They had no clear weapons, but it was a strategic, political, and scientific war because of the difference between both nations, so there wasn't a physical combat.
Cold War was good or bad depending on the person's point of view. I think that it was bad because it was a war, and the war means weapons, dead people, changes, destroys, etc. This war was not that destroyful, but still it involved fight. Knowing of all of these wars and their reasons makes you grow as a person.
Created using Powtoon.